Please join us for a moment of silence. Thank you. Starting off with citizen concerns, round one, item one on the agenda. Anything to be heard that is not already on the agenda?
Hello,
Hey,
Doyle Turner, 2738 200 Street. I've got some good news when it comes to this pipeline. The legislature has messed this up so bad that it doesn't matter what anybody does, they are not going to make it any worse. So you got to look at the bright side. If you go on the website with the Iowa Utilities Board, it actually says that they are not responsible for the safety of these pipelines. And they just had a meeting on the 13th talking about safety because nobody is sure who is responsible for what. But I think in these times of uncertainty, I think you actually told me something about how many congressmen, when you were in Des Moines, put the pipeline as one of their largest issues. Would you agree? I think something's going to happen down there.
It sounds like it to me, yes. When we were in caucus, that those couple days, that was one of the major topics that people had on top of mind, if I can say.
So I think it's kind of safe to say we don't really know where this is headed and who the players are all going to be. And I think that's why it's so important at this stage to come out and be forward with our zoning to try and get it so that these landowners can have access to that pipeline. We know we can make jet fuel out of CO2. Woodbury County is sitting in the ideal spot. We just happen to have the Guard is a fueler to not allow Iowans access to this CO2 that is made within our state with this much opportunity would be about the same as making it so that Iowans couldn't buy corn. We have a real opportunity. It's a once in a lifetime situation. If we're going to have to deal with the downside of the pipeline, then at least give us the opportunity to deal with the upside. I want to give you a quote from the chair of the Iowa Utilities Board, Jerry Huser, and she was actually talking to Board of Supervisor members when she said this. I'm one who says, try it until you're told you can't do it. And she was referring to protecting their citizens. And I'm asking you to protect our citizens' rights to go ahead and direct staff and the zoning board to come up with zoning that would allow the landowners to have access. And if these pipelines aren't willing to give access, then they're not for the public good. And I think that's a fight that you can take to the court. I don't think anybody's going to deny the fact that you have the right of eminent domain. If that pipeline was already existing and somebody wanted access to it, you would have the right to use eminent domain to get access to that pipeline. Well, let's face it, none of us like the fact that eminent domain is going to be used for these pipelines. Well, it's only fair to the pipeline company, if we don't like the treatment we're getting, to give them a heads up and say, hey, we expect you to give access to our citizens. Could we get maybe a directive to staff to look into this?
is that something you think could be done there, Dan? At least,
Providing the product, I'm a bit unsure. I'd probably have to talk to legal on that. I do know within the framework that we do have with the conditional use permit, we do have that process for them to evaluate the areas, but I'm not so sure about the ordinance directing kind of a user relationship, I guess.
that might be actually easier to lobby the state to look at you know, even having the state pursue an agreement that as a value-added product of agriculture, that's something that be a product that stays in the state.
Mr. Chairperson, 3 minutes is up according to your rules.
Sure.
And whenever you get into these conversations, it's kind of like deliberation.
Oh.
When folks are,
I'm not deliberating or voting on anything.
no, that's what occurs, is that's what the 3-minute rule is for. And it shouldn't be give and take at this point in this meeting, because that's when you get into deliberation. It has to be something that's on the agenda. That's when it's, you're to discuss it.
Well, and that's something that if you want to discuss that with your zoning, planning and zoning side, you sure can. And
Yeah, and the few weeks back, I think it was the 6th, that you did receive the recommendation from them, and part of the letter to you was they're always open to, you know, further directive on the issue with it being so significant. I do know on the 13th, watching some of the meeting that had occurred, I know that they're still kind of debating what's going on, whether it's a utility or not a utility. So there are so many variables involved in this issue that I think everybody's been kind of cautious, especially watching what's going on with the other jurisdictions, the other counties. So there's not really a clean cut scenario that I think it takes further research and monitoring of all the issues, whether it's from the legislature, whether it's from the other jurisdictions, and what they're ultimately going to determine if that's a utility or not.
sounds good. All right, well, thanks, Doyle.
Thank you.
Anybody else, citizen concerns? Item 2 is approval of the agenda. I'll move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Taylor. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Moving on to the consent agenda is item
We've got
3.
a set time there, Keith.
Is it 4:37? All right, 4:35, public set. All right, so we're going to skip up to item 8 on board administration. Public hearing, the proposed to amend the lease agreement with the Woodbury County Law Enforcement Center Authority. You want to take that? Oh, yeah, so I guess we're now in the public hearing. Anybody to be heard on that? All right.
Can we have, Dennis, can you give us a little bit of introduction for the public's purview of what this encompasses?
Yes, according to the lease that's signed between the county. According to the lease signed between the county and the authority has the obligation to furnish all the furniture, fixtures, and equipment for the new LEC, Justice Center. What we'd like to do is amend that where the county is gonna purchase all that furniture, fixture, and equipment in the tune of around $941,000 to be paid from ARPA funds. To do that, we had to have this public hearing, and they already passed theirs this afternoon to pass that back to Woodbury County. So what that means, we'd be in the process of purchasing all the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and that'd probably be run through Kenny. He's working with the state on a procurement deal to get it cheaper. And also, if there are damages to that property, anytime that we're responsible, replace it. So it's just like normally we buy the furniture, equipment, and fixtures. We own it, not the authority. So that's probably the way to go, and they're willing to let us do it.
All right, anybody from the public here to be heard on that? All right, seeing none, I'll move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. 8B, we'll go ahead and approve resolution approving and authorizing execution of First Amendment to the lease agreement with the Woodbury County Law Enforcement Center Authority. I will move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Now we're going to jump back to the consent agenda. Items 3 through 7 constitute a consent agenda, routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items pass unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 3, approval of the minutes of the December 13th, 2022 meeting. Item 4, approval of claims. Item 5 from Human Resources. A is approval of memorandum of personnel transactions. B is authorization to initiate hiring process. C, approval of request to the authorized county position. D, approval of the chairman to sign the 2023 Innovative Benefit Consultants Plan renewal. Item 6, Community and Economic Development, approval of resolution thanking Robert Brulette for his 15 years of service on the Board of Adjustment. Item 7, from Secondary Roads, approve the permit to work in the right-of-way for Nick Kerr to direct the chair to sign the permit. Any other items or any discussion, question?
Move approval.
Second, motion by DeWitt, second by Radig. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
Let me just ask a quick question, Mr. Chair.
You can.
So on the board administration public hearing, is that just one hearing that's needed?
Correct.
Them and the lease, okay.
Correct. We did publish in Sioux City Journal. We have to publish in one paper, general circulation.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so we're jumping back down to item 9 now from WCICC, John Malloy. Approval to spend WCCIT FY23 CIP dollars.
John Malloy, IT. What you have in front of you is the CIP remaining dollars in our 2023 budget. Mr. Butler said I needed to come forward to gain approval from this board to spend those dollars. One item of note is the generator on the request for action. That's nearly a $500,000 item. I do have an improvement in for the 2024 budget. It would be an operating improvement that would negate the need for that item. That and about another $450,000 worth of CIP. So visit with Dennis on that item, and from his standpoint, it made fiscal sense. But if I can't move on that item through those deliberations here in the next couple months, then we need to move forward on that generator. So it's sort of a dual track here. I need to move forward with the generator with Kenny because the generator's going away with the LEC. So is there anything you want to add there, Dennis?
Yeah. And
You're fine.
probably during the next month and a half, when we go through budgets, he has a proposal where it'll be a 10-year contract with another business to provide the service, which will eliminate the $450,000 and another $400,000. So when he comes forward with this, there will be a savings. Instead of doing the CIP, paying interest over the next 5 years, we can do this over a 10-year deal and save money. So, but he'll come back with that during our budget hearings.
So we'd also have the city have to approve that as well, correct?
City only has one minor item in that
Okay.
CIP. It's for UPS.
Okay,
UPS
so,
needs to be replaced.
because the generators are both for county facilities.
It's
Okay,
totally, yes.
got it.
So I want to mainly get in front of you, not only to gain access to these funds, but also to give you the heads up on this improvement. Because if we don't move forward with the improvement, then we need to definitely moving forward with the generator.
So what is a specific motion that we're looking for today?
It's just to approve the dollars that we had set aside for the CIP for WCICC in last year's budget time.
Current year,
Yeah, or this year's, yeah.
Correct. With the stipulations, $450,000 may not be expended if we get through with this other proposal improvement that we'll be talking about during the budget.
Because in the backup, it doesn't have all the other CIP items. What else was on that list from FY23?
For 2023, access points, backup storage, our I-Series server, and
Oh,
then the
okay,
IT
never mind, it is there.
generator. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it's at the bottom.
We did approve partial budget here several months, back in August, I believe, when we needed to do the new LEC equipment.
So the
really-
total is
yeah.
578? Is
Yeah, and the
that,
biggest part of it was the 450 for the
Right.
generator.
And what Dennis and I are saying is that can go away if we approve the improvement that has yet to be deliberated. So
What is the estimate? Yeah, well, you probably.
it's net to the county, net will be in the 30s, it's 60s. Part of the proposal is power for our data center, and that power, in theory, would go away. The need for that power would be, we'd be billed for actuals at a different facility, but it's part of what I want to do is move our compute and storage to a hosted facility offsite, much like the school system does now. So but they would bill us for power, and half the bill is power and cooling.
Okay. Well,
Which that will save building service for courthouse that amount of money also. So we're actually gaining quite a bit over a 10-year period.
well, I would move this, of course, pending on the generator,
Right.
so.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Raddick, second by Taylor. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So
and I
what,
wanna-
what did you just pass? What was your motion?
So basically, the CIP items that were not the generator, so we got the access points, backup storage, I-Series, those are all good to spend money on, and then the IT generator would be pending what happens.
Dennis, you got it?
Yep.
I'll get it from you. Thank you.
Okay. And since I won't be in front of you again, I want to thank Rocky for his service to the county.
Thank you
So-
very much.
And I wish you the best. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I did think I saw a tear out of the corner of his eye as he said that too, Rocky, so
We've become good friends.
that's a great impact you've had. Item 10, secondary roads. A, approve the contract and bond for project parent K45 with Gobertson Smith Construction for $318,847.40.
Good afternoon, Mark Nara, Woodbury County Engineer. The contract in front of you is for replacing about 2,100 feet of pavement from the intersection of 270th Street north on Dallas Avenue to the north end of the dairies. This year's fall harvest pretty much destroyed the integrity of the pavement that's out there. We'll be replacing the aging 6-inch thick pavement with new 8-inch.
This is south of
This is south of Luton,
Luton, that's the
Yeah.
one, yes, okay. I know where
north of Sloan.
All right. I'll move it.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. 10B, approve the project agreement for Project Perrin 278 and 170, and direct the chair to sign said agreement.
This agreement is for the interchange. The
Interstate.
I-29, it's been called the Southbridge Interchange. As you note in the agreement, the project is resting upon the TIF funding to be able to finance it. DOT's participation in the project consists of design engineering, right-of-way acquisition, and construction engineering on the entire project. Typically, design engineering is costs 8 to 10%, or 8 to 12% of project cost. Conservatively, that's worth about $2.5 million. This has some fairly extensive right-of-way acquisition, so the land survey, platting, and staking that goes with that is part of the project, or part of DOT's contribution. And then they'll also be supervising construction throughout the project. We are working, Dennis and I have been working on an agreement with the city so that if this area around it is annexed, that they would assist in retiring the TIF bonds as they come due. DOT is trying to move this project along faster, possibility of maybe being a year to a year and a half ahead of our original timetable, which if you'll recall was fiscal year 2027 for right-of-way acquisition, fiscal year 28 for actual construction. So we might be able to see this moved up as much as year to 2 years, depending on how quickly they're able to move through this project. They're requesting this be done, this agreement be approved by the Board of Supervisors so that they can begin work through DOT channels next calendar year.
You know, what do you think our odds of working with Simcoe on maybe getting an EDA grant put together?
Is that for MPO money, you mean?
No, like Economic Development Authority from,
It's my intention to go
Rescue
after a
Plan.
RISE grant. I think this would be a good candidate for a 50/50 RISE grant for the approach roads on either side.
okay.
We need to get a little farther down the line in design to figure out where that might be. That'd be something we'd be looking at maybe going after later in 2023, once we have some quantities and can see what the cost related to that would be. We'd only be able to use that money outside the area of the ramps, so that would be directly to the county road portion of this project. It'd be worth talking to Simcoe about any possible grant that would assist us with this project that we can get. You know, we have a couple of years to work on financing before we have to worry about doing the TIF bonds.
Well, with Build Back Better and everything else they've passed federally, you know, this could be an opportunity. I know the city, when we're, you know, looking at, what do you call it, 18th Street, that had an EDA grant to it, and they didn't use that, so.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if this is ambitious enough, since it's just an interchange, but it also opens up quite a few acres to development, so.
For sure. That's the basis for going after RISE, so, no, we'll pursue that with Simcoe.
Sounds good.
Nothing in this, Mark, obligates the county as far as the funding by signing this, is that correct? Is this
You're obligating yourself to funding it.
to the $25.2 million?
That's the estimate for the project for construction, yes.
Okay, what would happen if, and I don't think this is going to happen, what if the city of Sioux City or Sergeant Bluff doesn't sign that agreement and we've signed this? Is this premature then?
We are the contracting authority and the local public agency that is in charge of this project. So that agreement that we're working with Sergeant Bluff and Sioux City is entirely separate and not a part of the consideration for this. This is
Correct,
part
but-
of your consideration as a Board of Supervisors.
Right, but my worry is this: if we don't have either let's just say that one or two say, well, we're not going to end up signing, we're then financially obligating something that may be of great benefit to them, especially if there's annexation, but we're now on the hook for $25.2 million. Is that what I'm hearing?
That possibility would exist.
And I don't
Based on our
know-
prior meetings with the city, they feel that the agreement we've offered them, I think they characterized it as very fair. And we're not anticipating them not participating in this agreement, so. You know, we're gonna be on the hook for the cost if nothing happens out there. If we build it and nobody comes, over 10 years, we'll be repaying the cost of that interchange. It's only if the city's annexed that they would be participating in that cost by that agreement. I don't know if I'm hitting on what you want to hear,
Yeah, I guess it
Jeremy,
gives me
but-
some hesitation,
Yeah.
if I'm frank about it, because if we're putting county TIF funds potentially at a $25.2 million cost, and we don't have any annexation agreements between the county and the city of Sioux City and the city of Sergeant Bluff, and it happens that, you know, they are benefited by that short of an agreement, but yet we're signing this tonight, saying, well, you're obligating as soon as you signed, whether or not they participate or not, that strikes me as potentially premature.
Now, something to remember that is that in this agreement, there will be a future pre-construction agreement that it will be negotiated between the DOT and the LPA to define further project responsibilities and cost sharing.
Okay.
That would be after we have an opportunity to go out and shake every tree to see if we can get some additional funding for the project.
I'd also be curious to look and see who paid for Waukees intersection when that was put in.
I know Lynn County, I was speaking with their county engineer. Lynn County apparently had to pay for the Tower Terrace Road interchange that they put in on 380, where their TIF funding was similar to what ours was. I don't know about Waukee.
I mean, I still think we have, once we move further down the road and you have a project that is, you know, shovel-ready and ready to go, that does open up more state and federal funds when you're looking to apply for grants. And, you can get transportation funds or you can get economic development funds. And I think we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot on development and new tax base if we're not pursuing this. Even if it ends up in the city limits of Sergeant Bluff or Sioux City, we gain substantially, so.
Yeah, I mean, look at the title again on this. It's pre-design agreement for a primary road project. There will be a pre-construction agreement that will lay out the actual, it'll have the nailed down cost, it'll have the participation from whatever other sources we're able to annex. But I'm also not gonna sugarcoat it.
Yeah, and I don't want to either,
Jeremy.
because I just want to be clear. I understand there's a pre-construction, there's cost sharing, but as of the signing of this, $25.2 million is the guarantee of the county without any consideration that there's going to be an agreement. I know there's talks of it, but I don't know if I'm ready to sign off on this tonight, given that. It's too big of an obligation short of, I mean, the city of Sergeant Bluff or Sioux City could walk away from that tomorrow, and yet we've signed today. I think that that's a real concern.
I don't know. I think it's a bigger concern to them if they don't sign off on it, because how it makes them look, but.
Well, it'd make them look maybe not very good, but it'd be an enormous benefit to them without any cost of their taxpayers.
Just don't say that out loud too much.
I mean, I'm
Well,
just,
this is a decision that you all have to make.
Yeah.
You know, again, I'm presenting the agreement with DOT and explaining to you where that puts us at this point.
well, I'm certainly appreciative. I'm not going to support tonight just because of the downside to county taxpayers potentially. I think we're obligating them to $25.2 million without any agreement with the city of Sioux City that has 3 times the tax base, and Sergeant Bluff that could annex us in at enormous benefit to themselves. And I'm hopeful that we can get that in the next 2-3 weeks, and then we
Well,
can do this.
That's what we're striving to do. I think it
Yeah.
might take a little longer than that because the county attorney's office, the city attorney's office will have to review the language. I blew it. I didn't get the attachment put on the email I sent today to staff members. So I'll have that out to staff first thing in the morning to see if there's any additional edits. But we did capture this in a discussion that was held on December 6th and with the Public Works Director of both communities, with their budgeting staff. And I think Mayor Winkle was in the room too. And, you know, both communities are supportive of this interchange and, you know, looking to the county as the lead public agency, just as DOT is.
Well, you know, again, we put the money in the IJR and got the results we wanted and got to this stage, and so I'll move it.
Which one?
We are on 10B.
10A was approved, so.
Second.
So motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt.
And just, if I can say one last thing, if it doesn't pass tonight, I hope we measure twice, cut once. I've been working on this for almost 7 years. And so my hope would be 2 or 3 weeks when we get something in writing, but I may be the only one too. So.
I would encourage you that if it doesn't make it, that you at least leave the door open for reconsideration after we'd have that city-county agreement. I think that is at the doorstep. And again, I've not heard anything from city folks or our counterparts at the city that indicate that they would not support that agreement.
Do we need to have this done before the agreement can be written?
DOT has requested that we have a written agreement with them in place before the end of the calendar year. You know, we
Okay.
don't have next week to look at this. And again, that's what's allowing district staff to work with the headquarters staff at DOT to get this project moving forward.
And just to be clear, Mark, we've talked only with city staff, but we have not talked with city elected officials. That was the
We
last
had
meeting.
one of two. You know, Mayor Winkle was there
Right, but the city of Sioux City's elected
City
officials,
of
we have
Sioux
not talked
City's
to any of
elected
them.
officials were not there.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I feel like we're in a time crunch if that's got to be the case. If it's got to be done this year with the DOT, you said?
They are requesting that it be done. You know, I'm sure if worst came to worst and it was January, I don't think they're gonna walk away from the project, Keith. But-
Okay.
But they did request that we consider it and approve the agreement this year, calendar year.
They didn't give a justification as to why?
Again, that was in an effort to get it in their workflow so that they can accelerate the development of this project.
Okay.
That's the best information I have for you. That was the information that was passed on to me through the district planner.
Well, again, I can't see them not participating after participating in the IJR. And the city of Sioux City really is the, you know, one of the driving forces behind moving this down the road initially too, so.
And again, this is the pre-design agreement. There will be a follow-up for the pre-construction agreement.
Sure.
so.
And it does serve the one paying most of the TIF, quite frankly, the most. So, all right, any other questions? Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
No?
Nay.
Okay, so it fails. All right, so. we'll
So
have to-
my suggestion is if we could put it on after the first of the year for reconsideration pending approval of the counterparts.
This issue isn't going away, so we
Yeah.
will bring it back. Dennis and I will try to move things along as quickly as possible with the city.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
What was the call?
What were you, Rocky?
Aye.
So it failed 3-2. What do you want, for or against?
Whoever was opposed.
Opposed was Taylor, Ung, and Wright.
All right, thank you.
All right, so we are looking at item 11. From Secondary Roads, Mark Nahr and Board Administration, approve the First Amendment to Letter of Understanding between the City of Sioux City and Woodbury County in regard to the Elk Creek Road project.
With the Elk Creek Road project, we've reverted to doing this in two parcels, or two pieces again. The developer, because of concerns about right-of-way acquisition for the work being done to connect the subdivision street in front of the residents of Elk Creek property up to the intersection with Christie, Southern Hills, and Old Lakeport Road. Because of possible delays like that would, or delays in acquiring right-of-way that would slow their ability to sell the lots that front onto Elk Creek Road, they requested that the city and county amend their original agreement to just pave that portion that's in front of the subdivision at this time. This agreement amends the prior letter. The prior letter had a very low cost estimate on the paving in front of the road. This letter specifies that the paving costs of Elk Creek Road in front of the residents of Elk Creek will be paid for 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3 by the developer, the city, and the county. That's roughly a $250,000 road improvement. The city and the developer are splitting the costs of the water and sewer lines, the electrical streetlights, electrical service streetlights, and sewer that's going to be installed alongside of the road. It also addresses that the city and county will work on extending Elk Creek Road from the north end of the subdivision around to the aforementioned intersection. It specifies we're looking at a 24-foot wide rural road design. City and county would share the intersection costs as well. The board was presented in your homework with approximate cost of that. I think it was roughly $380,000 for the intersection for the county share, $320,000 for the intersection for the city share. The paving up to the intersection would be shared 50-50 with the city. This agreement covers more than just Elk Creek Road. It also had some language that covered the disposition of the existing law enforcement center, just to refresh the board's memory on the full nature of that letter. This is only addressing paragraph 7, 8, and adds a new paragraph 9 to that letter of understanding. 9 is that we consent to allow them to construct a sidewalk, and this would be done on the county side of the road, so the east side of Elk Creek Road, which is county jurisdiction. The city will pay 100% of the cost of that sidewalk.
Is there a reason that jumps over to the east side when it's on the west side?
Primarily utility problems on the west side. That's where we have a fairly major distribution line. That's where the phone and cable and a lot of other utilities are in that western side. So at this point in time, the east side has the fewest issues with development and construction of that sidewalk. It also connects more directly with that residence at Elk Creek. So there is currently the crossing with residents at Elk Creek over to Signey Hills Boulevard.
So is that gonna be a bike trail width then as well, or?
I'm anticipating, based on the description of what we've kicked around in the meeting when we were discussing this, it would look very similar to what was done on the west side of Christie Road, where it's the wider profile that allows that bicycle path.
Well, because we paid extra for that participation in that bike trail width on the west side over there, I think it would be just common sense that you continue at that width and keep that expanding.
Yeah. Part of the intersection construction is the sidewalks that will connect that up. We'll need to remove and preserve the donated park bench and the bicycle
Inflation
tool.
thing.
Yeah, the bicycle tool that's at that intersection will need to be removed to where the new sidewalk is.
All right, any questions on this?
I'd approve the First Amendment to the letter of understanding between the city of Sioux City and Woodbury County in regard to the Elk Creek Road project.
You say it's a motion?
Yes.
Okay, so we got a motion by Taylor. I'll second by Raddick. All right, any other discussion? All right, and, you know, a lot of people don't see all that goes into this, but there were quite a few meetings, quite a bit of work put in there by Mark. I just want to thank you on that, you know, because not a lot of people see that. You see the 10 minutes of discussion here in the Board of Supervisors and think it was that easy, but there's a lot of work that went into that, and I just want to say thanks. All right, any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Mark, on this one here, I see a spot that I think says, I signed that one. Okay.
There should be at least 2 copies of that, Keith. I'm sorry I missed tagging.
No problem. This one's all done. Item 12, Board of Supervisors, information about Woodbury County Rolling Hills participation in the Hope Street and presentation of good news with community participation. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So as board's representative to Rolling Hills, I participated on December 14th with our other county counterparts, and I thought there was a really good news story that I just wanted to highlight. The numbers in our region are strong, so we have about 73.5% remaining, a little over $9 million. But because of some state mandates, we need to pare down our one-time ending fund balance. And we discussed that Schessler Hall is essentially closing its doors, and our $86,000 that we normally give to Schessler Hall is going to be transitioned to Siouxlands Bridges West. So essentially, the same sort of services will still be provided. At the same time, that places Schessler Hall in a position to potentially be sold. And Dave Ferris, Matt Oman came and gave a great presentation on Hope Street. And as dark sometimes as the news is, and we don't often hear really great, good news stories. Hope Street has 10 beds that fill in the gaps of life where people have been hurting and traumatized and dealing with mental health issues. And because of their efforts and dedicated service and a lot of philanthropy and great staff, Sarah Johnson is here as the director today to give us a little more. They have had over 54 men now living out on their own, becoming self-sustaining, holding jobs, embracing a sense of community. Dave Ferris talked about not only his great efforts with Matt, but also Dave Bernstein, Regina Roth, and some other great philanthropists who have helped out. And it looks like the $50,000 that we appropriated in one-time funding will help to purchase Schessler Hall and open up this amazing sense of community that these men and others have been able to engage in to get their lives back on track. So with great appreciation, just wanted to thank you for coming here, and if you could just share a little bit more about what you do and the lives that you've helped to transform, we'd be appreciative.
Sure. I'm Sarah Johnson, 406 12th Street with Hope Street of Siouxland. I am the director, and 3 years ago, we opened in June 2019. So we've been open roughly 3.5 years. We have a great need in our community to support men who are really struggling. For several years, there have been committees who really wanted to address this from a little bit different standpoint than we have taken. It's looking at a detox center, and that's $10 million to operate that. Our budget was $200,000. So that's what we've been operating on for the last 3 years. And we have been able to have a place for 10 men at a time who are taken off the street. They need to be homeless or coming from prison, but being homeless prior to going. And our whole goal is to help address the mental health and the substance abuse issues those men are struggling with. I would say 99.5% of our guys are dual diagnosis with the mental health and substance abuse. So, you know, we have some things put into place. We are part of the National Sober Living Association, which requires attendance to Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and getting a sponsor. Our organization, I feel, does things a little bit differently. It's just myself, and I have one case manager who, I know it doesn't sound like we have a lot of guys, but Hope Street has 10 beds, and then we have been able to open a second location this year in this past January, and those are the guys who have been able to become independent, get their driver's license, pay off their fines, hold a job for a lengthy amount of time, but they're not ready to live on their own. And so we provide minimal support, but we're still kind of the safety net. So we have kind of two paths right now that we're doing for these guys. The problem that we're having is we have an application process, and in that process, not everybody is accepted. If you have violent crimes or there's going to be a risk of safety to someone in the home or to myself, we don't take those individuals. We're not the right place. Right now, these are my applications for October, November, and December who have been accepted, and it's over 65. And so we have people in our community who are willing, excited, they've heard about our success, and for me, it's really about creating a relationship with that person who comes in. I have so many great stories I could tell you, but we have people who, you know, I lived on the west side. I grew up in Sioux City. I graduated, got my degree. I tell people I come from Beaver Cleaverland, and the guys that I work with, some started drinking when they were 3. You know, their parents taught them how to snort cocaine when they're at 11 years old. I was making mud pies. So when I think about these guys and the support that they need, that's the difference that my case manager and I provide. And it's the relationship, it's the way that we allow them to make choices on what's their next steps to reach their goals. We don't do a cookie cutter approach. Every single person has a say in how they are going to lead to success. And I am just thrilled to have an opportunity to help these guys become successful. And I'm looking at, you know, reuniting with families, their kids, being out of the DHS system, having their own place, getting their license back. And I look at it from a different standpoint as well. We save the community a lot of money, a lot of money. I have one individual who has been with us before. We did a 6-month study on him. He was with us for a few months. He had a bad day, he left, and he allowed us to do a 6-month study on him. In 6 months, he cost our community $500,000, and $500,000 could keep Hope Street open for 2.5 years, serving so many more people. And those are the people that we're trying to capture, get them to a place of safety, whether it's to go to a group home, another sober living home, you know, being able to be independent with some supports, or just getting healthy enough to move on to be independent and live the life that they want to. So, you know, we're looking at men who are contributing to our community, and they aren't working in fast food. I don't have one person that has worked fast food for us. And so they're working at Seaboard, Tyson, Unity Point Health, different car washes. We have people who have a 3rd grade education, and they're working full-time in our community right now because they've been to Hope Street. And I think that that's a huge impact to, you know, paying taxes, giving back to the community that supported them, and really looking at, you know, everyone has an opportunity to be successful if they're given the right tools and the right support. Does anybody have any questions?
Can you talk a little bit about some of the rules? Not that that's the thing, but I just thought that was an interesting thing as far as the baseline expectations, if you're going to be a part of Hope Street and what you all expect. And
You know what? Our expectations, I have a military background, so I have a different viewpoint on it. My expectation, you're up every day, you make your bed, your room is tidy, you're responsible for cooking your own food, keeping your space clean, doing your own laundry. That doesn't mean, you know, throwing it on the floor underneath your bed. That's washed, you know, dried, folded, put away. We do room inspections, we do contraband inspections, UAs, we do urinalysis and breathalyzers, a minimum of once a week, typically 2 to 3 for each person.
And what happens if somebody, let's say, regresses or doesn't pass?
If somebody relapses, they're asked to leave immediately. They have 3 hours to vacate the premises with all of their belongings. We have a 0 tolerance policy. As much as I would like to give people second opportunities, I have all of these people who haven't had a chance. And so you are asked to leave, but I fully believe in grace that you can reapply in 2 weeks. Doesn't mean you get in. You get put on the waiting list, and we've had people wait over a year to get back in. And I think one of the things that is, I don't know, it instills a sense of pride, having some accountability. You know, people say to me, don't treat me like a child. I'm like, I'm not. I fully expect an adult to be able to make their bed. I fully expect an adult to, you know, be able to make toast. If you don't know how to do those things, that's okay. We're going to walk beside you and teach you. And that's part of our relationship. It's not about making people feel less than. It is really about giving them that self-esteem, that feeling of belonging, creating a family, having similar goals, but doing it in the way that works best for them. And so for us, everybody has these guidelines and expectations. We review them. They are expected to sign that, and it's their contract, their agreement, that this is gonna be, you know, my responsibility and the expectation for my home. And we really believe that men who have expectations, who have a standard to live up to, are able to rise and do that, while maybe changing their lives in many different ways. And that really starts with the mental health and the substance abuse. So for Hope Street right now, we had a tiny bit of money left after the end of the year. And, you know, the last 3.5 years, we've been completely funded by the community. A large portion of that funding came from Regina Roth. We do have some individuals, some businesses in the community who've been regular donors, and we have been very appreciative of that. And so being able to go to Rolling Hills and asking for some support to purchase a larger building, to be able to offer more space to help more men in our community was very much a blessing. I guess I would like to say, if there is an opportunity, I would like for Hope Street to either be added onto the agenda sometime next year, or be included maybe in some conversations about how else that we can receive support from our community.
Any questions on anything? Well, I just want to say, if I can, I'm really, really appreciative of the work that you do and inspired by it. And it was an awesome thing to be able to hear business people from both sides. The political aisles didn't matter. It was about community and not about programs, but about people. And clearly you are there. That's your heart. And I thought that was a really good thing to hear around this time of year. So thank you for what you do and continue to do. And you have our appreciation and an open platform for the future. So thank you very
And I would like
much.
to invite any of you to come and look at our building, meet some of our guys at any time. I think it'll change your perspective of what the homeless, people struggling with mental health and substance abuse issues, change your perspective of who they are.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then any reports on committee meetings? Right, go ahead.
We did have an LEC authority meeting this afternoon, and we do have a final date of September 1st of 2023, which frees up, it gives a lot more latitude for the sheriff's office, especially to deal with contracts anywhere from food to medical to possibly inmates, whatever the case may be. It does have some language on penalties if it's not made, but we have a 9/1 of 23 finish date. Pretty exciting.
Feels like it's right around the corner, but
Think about it, it is.
yeah. Do you have anything, Jeremy?
No, that was really nice.
All right. Anything in, what is it, Puerto Rico?
Well, as our final days wind down as Grant Township trustees, I just wanted to mention I was remiss last week to thank the auditor's office, especially Michelle Scaff, for filling in as the de facto permanent/temporary clerk for the position and those duties. So your work will be remembered, and I do know that the two trustees do need to fill a vacancy next year. So, Michelle, if you need any letters of support or perhaps an endorsement from a former township chair for that position, I'd be happy to do that for you.
You'd have to find a place with a new pool. All right, I had Simcoe inserts, and we had a lot of wrap-up year-end stuff, a lot of discussion on the certs building, some new contracts that they're opening up, new revenue streams, which is a good thing, good timing. The building there is expected to be almost entirely done kind of end of April, but they're going to be waiting for one HVAC piece of equipment probably into July, so they won't be able to get in there until then. Still ahead of schedule, though. Western Iowa Workforce Development had another meeting there that it feels like it keeps getting worse. The situation with the state legislature and the Department of Labor is not good. We made all these changes in the last year, and now they want us to completely redo it all again. They have some consultant that they should fire. But the feelings I'm getting from the other board members that show up to meetings is that they're done, and we're gonna probably disband and all get rid of the 2080 and just have the state take over workforce development for this 18-county region. A lot of the people that did a lot of the work and heavy lifting are terming out on their supervisor elections, or some were beat in their elections. So we're losing like a lot of veterans that know what they're doing, and I don't want to be the only one left along with another guy. And so I think that will probably not stay around. Item 14, citizen concern, round 2. Item 15, board concerns.
I have something before you move on.
All right.
On the supervisor vacancy that is going to happen, the pending supervisor vacancy that was notified that the city, Sioux City Community School District is probably going to have a special election on March 7th. So I will be recommended when that committee meets that we have a special election. We now have 9 people that have voiced an interest in that. 7 of them are Republicans, and I just want to explain that a lot of people don't understand this. They think that since 8 people or 9 people have expressed interest, all 9 people would go on the ballot. That is not true. The Republican Party and the Democratic Party would have to have a convention if there is an election, and then plus folks that aren't affiliated with a party or if just want to be nominated by petition, they would have to get 250 signatures in order to appear on the ballot as nominated by petition. So the parties, the Democrat and Republican Party, have an opportunity to have a convention to nominate their person that would be on the ballot, and then also folks who want to be nominated by petition would have an opportunity to do it that way.
Item 15, board
Right.
concerns. Wow.
Can I ask a question just for informational purposes? So with that, once the committee meets, it'd be you, the county treasurer, and the county attorney.
Correct.
And then will you vote on that potentially, or come to a consensus of whether it's a special
I've
election?
reserved room on January 9th, and that committee would meet at that point, and at that point, they have the opportunity to either move to appoint or call for a special election at their own volition.
And is that typically an open meeting, or is that?
It is an open meeting.
Okay. All right, thank you.
It
I was
will
just
be-
curious and new to the.
Right. And it will be posted, and hopefully folks will be aware.
Thank you.
Board concerns. Any? All right, we're adjourned.